Hey everybody, this is Brett Ingram, and this is the optYOUmize podcast, the show that helps entrepreneurs build their dream business and dream life. Today we're talking with Ryann Halo, multiple seven-figure entrepreneur and the founder of Halo Consulting, a leading growth strategy firm for small businesses. She has founded, advised, and grown multiple companies from startup to scale. Her first company, Salon Halo, she took from struggling to make payroll to a multi-site, multi-million-dollar business that's received numerous awards. I'm super excited about this because we're always looking for ways to scale our businesses. So with that, welcome Ryann, and thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Absolutely. So I know you're going to be sharing with us some amazing tips, but I have to start off because you have a fascinating story. So I have to start by asking you about your background. What's been your career path? What led you to where you are now?
Yeah, so I'll give you the shorter version today. Anybody who's interested, the long format's out there. Like I think many people born in the 90s, it was very much instilled in me that my path to success would lie in the academic track and going to college, the best college you could go to. I mean, even the TV shows, everything was about college, getting into college. I come from a lower middle income family, very loving, normal in the early days. When I was in third grade, I tested into the gifted honors program, and I was the only kid at my school that was in that, so I was getting bused to another school. So again, a lot of emphasis on like, you have these gifts, the only way to make the most of them is this direction, going to college. So that was fine by me. I had ideas that I'd probably be a lawyer or a CEO of some big company. I didn't really know what that looked like, but when I was 11, everything changed. My dad committed suicide and took the life of my 6-year-old brother. So, of course, my mom, as you can imagine, she had been a very responsible young professional, went to nursing school while we were kids, and had bought her second house and set an amazing example, but it totally derailed that path for her and I, and she developed a prescription drug addiction. A few more years, from 11 to about 14, 15, things just totally unraveled, and I was so far behind in school. I ended up actually having to leave the home for my own wellness reasons and kind of gave up on school, and that was probably the only time in my life I can think of that I felt like depressed, but it came from a sense of hopelessness.
Sure.
From a sense of not seeing the light at the end of any tunnel. It was like, this was the path I was on, and it was cut off. And I didn't see the path to the light or to the next step or to what I imagined as success and fulfillment. So here I am, 15 years old, kind of couch surfing, or maybe living in the not, lesser of two evils situation, and it was a lot of prescription drug addiction in my town at that time in Florida. About 2007, 2006, opiate epidemic was just crazy. I had family members, I had friends, I had so many people dying from opiates, and it was everywhere. And I had this very strong anti-drug mindset, but I could feel it kind of breaking down because I didn't see why not. When
right.
I had literally drug dealers that I was living with.
Wow.
It just little by little, it was like eroding this like stance, and I remember really hitting the darkest kind of crossroads and snapping out of it. It's like, no, I'm not gonna try this drug or that drug. And right at that time, where it was very pivotal time, the lights kind of shone through the clouds, and I met this hairstylist that was really fun and hip and from New York, which my family's from New York, so she was very relatable. She's a young mom, and she offered me a job for $25 a day to be her personal assistant, essentially, while she was working in the hair salon a few days a week. So I think it would have been easy to say $25 a day, like that's not even minimum wage, but I was just so happy to have some path forward.
Yeah.
And I did grow up since the age of 12 shampooing for family members and hair salons, and my perspective on that at the time was still kind of like, oh, am I settling? Like, this isn't a serious job. This isn't gonna. So I was kind of torn. Like, on one hand, I was really excited to just get out there and be doing something. But when it was time to make the decision, like, is this gonna be my career path? I felt conflicted because all of these arbitrary societal kind of, just made up things about it not being a serious profession. I was very conflicted. So I get into this job, and next thing you know, the $25 a day turns into $50 a day because I don't sit down. I'm just always with all this energy and want to add value and be doing something with myself. So then the owner's like, well, you're not working for her. I'm going to pay you $50 a day, and then you can assist me. And then the clients are tipping me, and the other stylists are tipping me, and it's $100 a day, and it's all this money in cash at 15, 16 years old in a small town. So that really lit me up, and the money was just a metric of me doing a good job. So it was very gamified for me, and it felt good to make a difference. So I learned a lot in that process about hair can be a serious profession, and there's so much more to it. It's all about how you approach it. So I've seen salons where it's like mom and pop, they're smoking cigarettes, talking on the phone, kind of casually just doing hair. And I've seen salons now and have a salon that is super optimized, very systematic, very career focused, and multifaceted organization. And that was really the turning point for me. Went to hair school, signed up at 16, and the rest, we could go into it, but that's basically
Well, I mean, it's an amazing story on so many fronts. I mean, first of all, to have to reconcile the tragedy in your life, and I can understand why you would then feel, well, whatever path I was on, that stuff doesn't matter anymore. So you have to totally reset and then re-find yourself and start over. But then, how sort of prophetic or powerful to have somebody that, even if they were offering you $25 a day, obviously they saw something in you, they believed in you in a way that, at least opened the door to something other than what you were doing or where you were going. So, it's amazing that, those sort of circumstances played out that way, but also that you had the strength of, character or belief in yourself to be able to invest in yourself and want to do that and say, I'm not going to go down this other path that might be easy because it's right there and there's so many other people doing it, but it isn't right. And so, I just think it's incredible that you would have done that. So how did you go from there? That's sort of how things all got started. How did you go from there? Because there are a lot of people that start a business, or there are a lot of people that go into a profession. It doesn't mean that they ultimately achieve a lot in it. Sometimes they're good at it or they're okay, but you've obviously done things at a really high level. So what made you sort of realize, what was the spark where you said, okay, this thing can go so high. There's so many places I can take this. Where did that come from?
My biggest motivator has always been to make the most of my potential. And that has evolved over the years and changed in many ways. But when I reflect, that is like the common thread. I want to make the most out of my life. I want to make the most out of my potential. I never want to have regrets. I never want to look back and be like, man, I settled. So, and me as a person, like, I won't settle for anything. And even, again, at a young age, like, if I wanted something, I found a way to get it. I used to sell, like, candy at school, and I would sell my lunches for money, and I would, like, to get the thing that I wanted. Maybe it was, like, makeup or clothes. And I just have always been driven to reach my potential, I guess. And when I got into hair, seeing that there was higher levels to operate at, and really it doesn't matter what you do, it's how you do it. Whether I was a lawyer, there are lawyers that are very unhappy and make $40K a year, and there are lawyers that make millions. There are hairstylists that make $20K a year, and there are hairstylists that make millions. There's so many things you can, it's all about how you approach things for me. So I just have approached life with this: I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to learn as much as I can, and I want to crack the code of life. So this was my vehicle, and I found a lot of fulfillment because I'm very artistic as well as a logical person. I think left and right brain. So for me, this was the best fit. I love people. I love moving around. I like art, and there's science behind it, and there's chemistry, geometry. So that's where it was like, okay, I'm gonna crack as much of this as I possibly can, and I threw myself into it. So then when it came to business, I guess I can tell you the second half of the story.
Yeah.
Went to hair school. I never wanted to own a hair salon. In hair school, I was the only person, when they asked, you'd have guest artists come in and be like, oh, who wants to have a hair salon one day? Everybody would raise their hand except for me. I was like, I've seen that. I know what that is. I don't want that. That seems like a lot of responsibility and stress. I want fun. I'm, 16, 17 at this time. Like, I want the glitzy, glamorous side of this industry. That was what I was going to pursue. I was reading books at the school on session work and photo shoots and all that. So I moved to Chicago after school, and I was out there from 19 to 21.
Okay.
I was doing hair and makeup for photo shoots, fashion shows. I was a freelance artist. I did some modeling. I was doing some serving, and I was just moving and shaking. It was like college without homework for me. And I was about to turn 21 when I got this next huge life-changing fork in the road. And I'm actually out to dinner on Michigan Avenue, overlooking this beautiful landscape. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be 21. I was going the next day home to Florida to see my family for 2 weeks, and I did maintain a small clientele there that would wait for me for their hair color. So I'd go back, make a couple, make some cash, and then fly back to Chicago, and I did that several times a year. So it was the day before one of these big trips, and I get a phone call from my grandma letting me know that my aunt was going out of business from her hair salon that I had worked in when I was 12.
Oh.
Not the one that I worked in with the assistant, as an assistant, but I grew up in this hair salon. My aunt was a little bit more casual in her approach, and it was it was a great salon, and she just had personal things going on and was going out. And my grandma said, do you want to buy this 50-50? You have 10 grand from Florida prepaid college from your dad dying. I'll put in 10 grand, and then we'll do it. And my first reaction was, heck no. I am not getting sucked back into my small town right before I turned 21. I'm living the life, but I had to think, I can always come back to everything I have here in Chicago right now, but I cannot always start my own company or have the chance to start my own company at 21.
Right.
So I just said yes, which is kind of one of my mottos, just say yes, because you genuinely don't know where life, God, the universe is going to take you. And I just said yes, and wow. I really thought I could just get it moving and then come back in a couple years, which that was 13 years ago.
Wow.
But I've learned, what it's done for me to grow me as a person compared to who I was then. And I would not have changed any of it. And, it's funny too. My grandma's blind.
Wow.
I'm 21 with a 10th grade education. Very poor communication skills and leadership skills. I did not grow up in the healthiest communication environment, which I know, I'm sure everybody has their stuff from childhood, but yeah, I learned how deficient I was in a lot of the skills needed to grow a team.
That's amazing. And so you were able to build that starting from, basically a business that was going out of business, and be able to completely turn that around and grow it and scale it. One of the things that always, fascinates me is, I see the difference between obviously starting a business, and that's a particular skill set, and there are things involved in that, where if you're going to initially start things off, you have to have your idea and you do all these other things. But it's a very different skill set to scale a business because it requires different things, and you have to have systems and processes and things like that. So what do you feel the most important skills or traits are to be able to scale a business once it's already off the ground and running?
I can definitely answer that. Systemization, having things repeatable, reliable. I have a whole methodology now that I've built out. I am a speaker and business consultant. I'm not in the operations of my salons at this time. I have a COO. And all of that is possible through this methodology that I now teach. And it's 11 phases, so it's not a short answer. It's definitely a long-term thing to work on, but the key thing that, to your point of how to scale, is systems. And then accompanying that is how to implement your systems with a team. Okay. So there's one thing to have all of the step-by-step procedures on paper and have it all figured out and how it works in theory, but it's a very different thing to have it work with human beings. And that was a many-year process of me continuing to understand how to get those results with my team.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, the evolution with it. I know in my own experience, in hiring and even when you have a process and a system, sometimes the way that you see it or interpret it might not be the same way as somebody else does. And so once you get a little experience in working with other people and sort of understanding, you can dial things in and constantly refine it and make things better and better. So, that certainly makes sense. I noticed one of the things in your background, you're a certified John Maxwell leadership coach. I have to say, I have profound respect for him. I think that he's an amazing speaker and leader and everything else. And I was first introduced to him when I was much younger. I was working in insurance at the time, and the guy that was running our office was I don't know how he stumbled across John Maxwell, but he showed us a few of his videos, the Law of the Lid and things like that. And I just loved his whole delivery, but also his ideas were really cool too. So I'm curious, what made you decide to go that route, and how was that experience for you to go through that path and become certified for that?
Yeah, so way before I got certified on paper, I was utilizing all of the John Maxwell books or audiobooks for me to overcome the challenges I was having. So about let's say maybe 4 or 5 years into having the salon, probably 4 years, I discovered Audible books and was able to just pour myself into all these different personal development, communication, leadership books. And I didn't know who he was. That was just one of, I think it was the 5 Levels of Leadership was one of the first books that I listened to. I'm like, oh my gosh, this clicks. This makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So I was just digesting all of these different books, and for years, his books became my favorite books. And I think I gave myself a certification through his teachings well before I went and signed up and got the title. So being a part of the actual certified leadership group allows me to attend his in-person events. It's awesome to be with like-minded leaders, and I've gotten to actually go to dinner with him, like a group dinner, and talk to him about my story, and it was the coolest thing. It's amazing. So having mentors near or far that are doing what you want to be doing is a principle that I follow and recommend. It's I won't take advice from people who I don't want to be living their life in that area, but I really look for the people who can be the example of what's possible and then how to get there.
Yeah, I think that's a great philosophy. Actually, in my own personal entrepreneurial career, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't align myself or find a mentor that I had that sort of connection with, because I followed people here and there and things like that, but I never had any one sort of specific connection or anything like that. So And I definitely see the value in it. I mean, it's actually what I basically do now because I think it's so important, and I think other people, if you know someone who's achieved something that you want to, there are clues there. There are definitely things that you can learn from them, and why make the same mistakes over and over? Why not learn from the mistakes they made, and hopefully they can get you to where you're going faster. So what about team building? It's hard to build a business, obviously, beyond sort of the ground floor without a strong team around you. So what's your advice for building a team, empowering a team, and equipping that team for success?
One thing that shifted for me as a young leader was that it's more important to get the result than to be right. So I had a lot of attachment to, like, well, I know this is the right way or the right thing or the right answer, or this is the outcome I want, and it's my company. I'm doing taking all these risks and investing all this, and then realizing, like, that doesn't matter. It's not going to lead to the successful outcome. So if I want to get a certain result with a group of people, it's not about being right. It's about getting that result. And that's an ego. We could go deep into the theory of this, but, putting your ego aside and just thinking about what the result that's going to best serve everyone is. And, I, again, could go really deep into all of my thoughts on the team, building a team and equipping a team. It starts, first of all, with hiring for the same core values. So just starting from the beginning, who are you adding to your team? Are you chasing the people that are the most talented, that are also going to have the biggest egos, that are also going to want to do self-serving things? Or are you building a team of people that all care about the same result? So that's step one. And the way that we hire is not for, like, somebody who can really bring a bunch of clientele and infuse the business with more cash. Or we look for people who have the same shared core values, and those should always be written out ahead of time when you're developing your organization. It's never too late to do it, but the sooner the better, having that on paper. Then from there, everybody grew up in a different family, maybe in a different place, different communication styles. All these, we're all puzzle pieces. So learning how to help everybody come together with their puzzle pieces and giving them the tools to do that. So for me, that would look like we do a lot of personality assessments. We do team building activities. We do meetings that are structured and they can be a little less, like, let's say, fun compared to some of the other team buildings we do. And I'm constantly looking at my team and trying to assess where the gaps are, and of course in myself, and then fill those in, and then look for where the strengths are and elevate those and those people and their strengths. So when you have somebody who has a certain skill set, make them a leader in that category. When you have another person who has challenges there, how can you make it fun and help them overcome that challenge? So when you're constantly filling in the gap, elevating the strengths, you create a different amount of enthusiasm in your team members. Communication, that's such a big one for maybe because that was my biggest challenge. We spent a lot of time on equipping people with communication tools. I love the Enneagram test. I love the Color Personality by Dr. Carol Rittenberg. The book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. These are some tools that over the years I came across and helped me overcome our challenge at that time. And we host a 2-hour weekly training with our team. Okay. So we cycle through everything from technical to team building to personal development, finance, yoga. We do whatever the team needs. So I have that time built into my schedule already, or to the salon schedule from almost the beginning. We've been doing that. And that allows me to make these things happen, because if it's not scheduled, it won't happen. And that's a life lesson in general, like schedule it or it doesn't happen. That's some of the stuff I've done to be able to bring my team together, keep us all on track to the same goals, and empower them.
That's very cool. I worked for a company, and it's interesting because the person who owned it at the time was very good at what she did, but she wanted to be able to grow the business. And she had worked with a colleague years earlier in a sales role that she had, and had a lot of respect for this colleague because the person was really good at sales. And so she convinced her to become a partner and come on and join the business. And the funny thing is, you mentioned the sort of alignment of core values, and I can tell you that from the first day that the other woman started, I knew that the business was in trouble, because the core values that the original owner had was about really investing in our clients and making sure that their experience was excellent, and the money and all the other stuff would come as a result. The person she brought in, while they were friends, had a completely different mentality. It was the stockbroker mentality. You rubber band the phone around your head and just keep dialing, beat people into submission for higher fees. And I could see the incongruency from a mile away. It was so obvious. Sure enough, as that story ended, they went their separate ways. There was a lot of animosity and a lot of issues, and the company ended up dissolving. But to your point, it's not just the skill set that matters; it's the alignment in what it is you're trying to do and how you want to get there as well. That ultimately, determines whether it's a good fit. So I think it's a great lesson.
I can speak a personal story to that. So I was just talking more about the team aspect of that, but you're going into the partnership, and that is actually a huge part of my grow and glow method, my consulting method and I don't know why I have a lot of friends that start businesses, and not nobody. It's rare that people take this advice when I share it, partnership agreement and getting everything worked out before you take the next step. I kind of look at it like marriage. If you're going into a marriage and you don't talk about what you want for your future, do you want kids? Where do you want to live? Is someone going to stay at home? Is someone going to go out and work? Are we going to both work? This is the absolute first step that you should take with with a partner. If you're looking at creating a business with a partner, and so many people just they're in love with the idea of the business that they don't want to do the practical stuff, and that actually was my experience with my grandma. So. Wow. That was one of our bigger challenges in the early days, was that I took for granted that we wanted the same thing. I assumed and just figured that we were looking to grow this business as big as possible, go as far as possible. We did not discuss long-term vision for the company. We did not discuss an exit strategy for either partner. That's something you have to determine. Absolutely. With a partner. What if one wants to get out and the other doesn't? What if, there's a lot of different paths this business can take, and you have to actually plan for them, because it's 1,000 times harder to do it after you've invested emotional, time, money, emotion, all that, hard work, sweat. The emotions are going to just exponentially make it harder. So my grandma and I, we were 50-50 partners. She had never run a business. I had never run a business. My grandpa had a little machine shop, but he didn't have too many employees or anything. He was the technician. So when we got to this point of she wanted to take money and start seeing return very quickly, and I was working and putting my paycheck back into the business. That was the first big obstacle that affected our relationship. We both had good intentions, yes, but we were not clear. So right. That's again where people take for granted, I trust them. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about alignment and on the same train, going to the same place. Not are we intending good for each other. So partnership agreement, people, please. And I mean, that's it in a nutshell, right? We come in with our assumptions, they come in with their assumptions, and one of the mutual assumptions is that those assumptions are all the same. But if the goals are different, if the way you want to get there is different, if what the end result looks like is different, and I think oftentimes it's the excitement of the idea of this working together. I know for her, for the existing owner, it was the idea that she could offload the idea of needing to grow.
she could just do what she wanted to do and let this other, but there was no discussion clearly about where or how this was all going to happen. And so yeah, I mean, absolutely. Now, I know you're a big believer in servant leadership. Can you share with us what that means to you and why you decided to embody that?
Yeah. For me, it's about serving the needs of the collective before anything else. So it doesn't matter what I want, it matters what's best for everyone. I think that is the nutshell answer for that question. I definitely have to not self-sacrifice and, just give of myself till I have nothing. Although I get a lot of fulfillment from seeing people succeed. And that is why after a few years of being a very successful hairstylist service provider, I shifted to a much less financially rewarding for many years position of leading team members and coaching team members and marketing for my team members and doing all these things to support their success, because it was very fulfilling. And long term, it's more lucrative to grow a team and empower them, but you can't do it for that reason. And you have to be real with yourself about why you want to be a leader and what you want to create.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And, in my experience, certainly the leaders I've been around, the ones that I resonate more with and always felt better about and was willing to do more for were people that sort of embodied that same thing. If I felt they cared about me and wanted my best interests at heart, then it was much easier for me to give everything I had to make sure that I did my part and make whatever that it was, a team, an organization, more successful. So you're also an advocate for women in business, and you've been named one of the top 100 women to know in the U.S. Do you think that there are specific challenges that women face in business?
Yes, and I choose to experience the world in the way that I'd like to. And I don't necessarily think that that's anybody else's. Nobody else gets to experience what I get to experience, and vice versa. I don't experience what anyone else has. I know that I have a lot of gratitude toward all the women that have worked very hard to make it so that we had the freedom we have. Because the fact that you couldn't even get a mortgage on your own, however many decades ago, it's undeniable that there have been things that we've had to overcome as women. Again, me being born in 1990, I think I've had the privilege to not have to experience too many of those things. I grew up in a very matriarchal family, the very, very strong women. I can be quite, yes.
You got those genes too?
I definitely, I don't let anything stop me, man or a woman, and I have a great husband who is super confident in letting me be that person. He's very secure, so he can just let me be that person. But when it comes to my industry, I mean, I could look at it objectively. I always like to play devil's advocate on both sides of things. Yes, it's a heavily female-dominated industry, but also a lot of the top artists in the last 100 years and top salon owners have been men. If I just look at my mastermind groups and when I was working, doing hair shows on the road, a lot of the top figures were men. And me getting started, I had two things that made me different, being so young in the rooms I was in, as well as being a woman, and especially once I stepped out of the hair specific industry events, Chamber of Commerce or any other leadership entrepreneur groups, very young and a woman. It was, I can't tell you the amount of times that I've shook someone's hand and the man has been like, whoa, nice handshake. I'm like, it's funny to me. I think there's people that could be offended by that, but I think it's hilarious. And so I think the way that we choose the light we bring to something also affects our experience. So maybe I just look at things very optimistically and don't let anything bother me. And whatever that doesn't serve me, I let it kind of roll off my back, and I choose to keep the things that best serve my point of view and my goals. So this gets a little theoretical, and we're going to be like all philosophical on this question. But yeah, I think it's almost an advantage for me because people don't expect. I think I make a big impression because they don't expect what they get from me. I am if you're not looking, I'm a blonde, kind of bubbly, now 34-year-old, but and I'm in a room typically with, people in their 40s, 50s, 60s who have established themselves in business. And yeah, I think it works to my advantage because it's not what they expect from me, and they aren't necessarily.
That's great. I mean, it's a unique perspective for sure. So I want to talk a little bit about you created the Grow and Glow method. Can you tell us what that is and how it works?
Yeah, and I think I did a disservice to your question by just tangenting off in my theory.
Oh, it's okay.
You specifically talked about empowering women, and I want to say one other thing about that. In creating Salon Halo, a really big reason I did it was because I wanted to create a platform for the people, but mostly women was what I was exposed to at that time, that loved caring for people in the beauty industry, loved the artistry of it, and were having a hard time feeling like a success, feeling financial, feeling a level of professional success, respect in their professional career versus like, oh, they're a beautician. Because that was my journey, I wanted to help a lot of other people overcome that like stigma and assumptions people make about hairdressers. So I have hairstylists that make 6 figures because, and all starting in the small town, not in our bigger locations now, which I'm so proud of that. And they get to feel really proud of themselves. So specifically to your question, that's a way that I think that we've been able to provide that for women. So
that's great, and I think it's important. I think anybody that sets out to achieve something or to work hard deserves to be successful and feel successful as well. So I think that's super important, and it doesn't matter what your background is, it doesn't matter what your gender is or whatever else. It should be about what you do and what you provide and the value you provide, and then being rewarded for that. So I think that's awesome. So now you can answer the Grow and Glow method.
All right. So what specifically got Grow and Glow do you want to know?
So what exactly is it? And if I'm a business owner, how does it help me?
All right. So I've taken what I've learned over 13 years of owning and growing businesses, and spent hours with strategists, days with strategists, pulling out the key points of success so I can transfer them to other people. So I've dabbled in business coaching for years now, but I've always kind of put it on the back burner. And finally I knew it was time. It's my calling. I have to help more people outside of my organization so they can help their people. There's a quote by Zig Ziglar: if you just help enough other people, you'll have everything you could ever want. That's like roughly paraphrased. And that's what I believe in. And that's leadership for me. And that's external education. So there's 3 higher overarching phases. It's vision, creation, and optimization.
Okay.
And that's basically everything from the creation of a business. Like we're talking about partnership agreements, job description, mission statement, core values. It's exercises to get very clear on those things. And that maybe isn't what excites some people. They don't always think they need that, but I'm telling you, you need the strong foundation before you can build on it. And then we move into the creation stage, which talks about how we make those systems that we touched on earlier, you and I. Systemization to achieve results with a team, to achieve repeatable results in any business, and also how to transfer that knowledge in a way that gets those results with team members. Because I think that is my number one challenge I'm hoping to solve for the world, is that you can be highly successful and have a life.
Right.
You can take care of yourself. I've had health challenges in this 13 years. I've had a lot of ups and downs to get this perspective, and it's not a one-size-fits-all thing, but you can't just constantly work harder, and be the be-all, end-all of your business. So I teach tools to empower team members to actually get results that are as good, if not better, than what you're going to do on your own. And then, of course, scale is optimization and scale is the last phase, and that talks a lot more about how to see the leaders in your team, how to elevate them. There's a lot of other strategies I use to scale, but yes, thank you.
Awesome. Well, that's a great description. Definitely gives us an idea. So where can we find you? Where can we find your programs and services that you offer?
So we have RyannHalo.com is going to have a link to a couple different resources. And Ryann is spelled with 2 N's. So it's Ryann and then Halo like an angel. And that will have, right now actually, I'd love to, I don't know when this is going to go live, but we have a mastermind starting August 1st, 2024.
Nice. Yeah, this will, we'll be able to air this in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, we'll get it in before that.
Okay, perfect. So that mastermind is like a one-time, this format's not going to happen again. We made it super duper affordable just to do this with the early adapters that want to be part of this new format. So this mastermind, I've never done this before quite this way. I'm not going to do it again. So I hope to get some people on there that want to go through the full methodology there'll be group coaching, there'll be question and answers, and we'll go over each week will be a phase of the methodology.
Awesome. So then my last question that I always have to ask is, what is your number one tip for success as a business owner or entrepreneur?
It is to be clear about your why. Why are you doing this? Is it money? Is it freedom? Is it making a difference in the world? Is it you want to specifically help entrepreneurs have a life? Like there's a different why for everybody. And if you know that why and you remember that why daily, it will inform your choices. So you're going to hit a lot of unexpected bumps in the road, and you need that compass to there could be a shiny object over here, and you're like, oh, well, that makes a lot of that sounds great. But if it's in the complete opposite direction of your why, then that's your litmus test there,
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I always say too, it'll keep you going through those obstacles, because it doesn't matter who you are, what business you're running, or what industry you're in. The fact is, the one thing you can count on as a business owner is challenges, obstacles, roadblocks. And if you're just sort of doing it to kick the tires and have a little fun, you're going to give up pretty quickly. Yeah. So having that driving force behind you and being in touch with that, I think, is really powerful in terms of being able to keep going despite all of the challenges and issues. So excellent advice.
You keep making me think of these books that I love. Grit by Angela Duckworth is such a good book that demonstrates the long-term consistency toward a why or a goal. I actually have a book list that we give out. So if anybody really wants that, either find me on Instagram or the website. I spend the most time on Instagram, so If you actually want to get to know me, that's where you should go follow me. But we do have the website.
Awesome.
And I do want to say that I don't specifically work with hair salons. I work with med spas, restaurants, retail, boutique, things like that. So basically any service providing team is who I love to help.
Excellent. Okay, well, with that, it's just about time to wrap things up. I want to thank you again, Ryann, for sharing all your insights and great tips with us. You can find her on Instagram at Ryann Halo. It's RYANN_HALO to connect with her. She's a huge believer in mentorship and is always looking for ways to impact others. So don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, remember, no matter what you want for your business and your life, don't compromise, optYOUmize.